With the unveiling of the Onami phone, Sony is going right up against the best in the biz. This is Joshua Vergara from Android Authority. What's going on, everybody? And this is the Sony Xperia Z1 versus the Samsung Galaxy S4 in this quick look. We have two different philosophies in design here, as Sony has been taking its omnibalance to its best with the Xperia Z1. The general look and feel of the original Xperia Z is in full force here and involves an aluminum unibody frame that is filled in with tempered glass. The flat sides and rigid corners make for a unique smartphone design that we pretty much only see from Sony. The side holds the silver power button, the signature one, that also includes a dedicated camera button too. While the entire phone is very fingerprint prone, this 5-inch form factor is still pretty accessible and isn't too uncomfortable for one hand. And of course, there is the water and dust resistance, which typically means the ports are all covered. Enter the Samsung Galaxy S4, the plastic up against Xperia's glass. This is the tried and true design that Samsung is very well known for by now, with its pebble-like and rounded look and the glossy plastic feel that can be pretty slippery to the touch. All of this includes the usual button layout and removable back that allows for removable battery and expandable memory. Its 5-inch screen is one of the best out there, as its footprint is actually quite accessible and similar to the original S3. Though the Xperia Z1 has definitely improved on its general handling, it has to contend with the accessibility of the Galaxy S4. There's nothing quite like a display comparison to remind you how subjective these things can get. The 1080p triluminous display of the Xperia Z1 takes on the 1080p Super AMOLED of the Samsung Galaxy S4. While we all know that the Super AMOLED lends itself typically to very high saturation, the Xperia Z1 has been able to get closer to that mark through enhancements like the X Reality engine. It isn't as vibrant as Galaxy S4 screen by far, but the more toned down look of the triluminous is still easy on the eyes and attractive. Media viewing has always been good on Xperia smartphones, and in the Z1 it should prove just as enjoyable as the S4. Under the hood, we see the Z1 taking advantage of a later release schedule. Instead of the 1.9 GHz Snapdragon 600 and Adreno 320 that the Galaxy S4 sports, the Z1 gets the updated Snapdragon 800 clocked in at 2.2 GHz and has the Adreno 330. Performance is often a spec race, and while we had no problems getting around the Xperia elements, we're sure the experience is pretty evenly matched here, even if the Xperia Z1 does get a little bit of an edge. And it's in the optics that the Xperia Z1 really didn't want to compromise. While the 13-megapixel shooter in the Galaxy S4 has been very well received for its vibrant and detailed photos, the Xperia Z1 is trying to get as close to a real compact camera experience as it can with a 20.7 Exmor-R CMOS sensor that echoes the RX line of Sony digital cameras. This is indeed going to be a monster of a camera that should reach a comparable number of enhancements as the S4's camera due to downloadable app enhancements. We're excited to see the comparisons in picture quality, and we will see them when the time comes. And in software, it's Xperia versus TouchWiz. In the case of TouchWiz, it's a whole lot of what we've come to expect with the added navigation enhancements Samsung put in. It's full-featured and, for some, might be a little overwhelming. On the other hand, the Xperia UI keeps it pretty simple and somewhat stock-like, with a darker tone interface and mainly additions like small apps and Sony-specific applications. A few new social media applications have been added in that help bolster the Xperia UI's position, but otherwise, it's just about what you remember it being. And so, there you have it. Sony has gotten closer and closer to perfecting its smartphone game, and the Xperia Z1 is a big step towards that goal. The design of Xperia phones is always well received by us, but the tried and true Galaxy S4 aesthetic is also very sought after. Sony has truly thrusted itself into the thick of it with the Xperia Z1, and we'll have full in-depth comparisons when we get our hands on one. For now, stay tuned for more Z1 coverage from IFA in Berlin.